Hello, you awesome friends. This is your pal, Edward's here speaking, and big thumbs up for you for watching an interview with Edward. Now, I'm really excited because our show has taken off globally thanks to you, and you know why it's taken off globally? Not only because of our loyal, awesome viewers being you, but of the fantastic people we interview. Now, we've got one of my friends from a great city that probably started Australian civilization called London in the United Kingdom. She's amazing, she's absolutely brilliant, and she's a company culture specialist who looks after frustrated employers and employees, and she helps teams maximize their performance. And I asked her, I didn't actually know this before the actual interview, I asked her something unique about it, and she is actually a qualified hair and makeup artist as well. Talk about multi-talented, and I'm excited. Dannique Blake, how are you doing today?
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. And Edward didn't force me at all. I have been calling him to let him know that I'm ready to do this interview. So it's great to be here, Edward.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm absolutely honoured to have you with us, and thank you. And just so I understand, it's 8 p.m. Sydney time Sunday. It's 11 a.m. in London right now. Is that correct?
It's 11 a.m. and we have, I think today is the hottest day of the year, so I'm quite warm today, which is great.
There you go. So it's about 12, 13 degrees, so real beach weather, huh?
Yeah, no, almost. Well, for London.
Anyway, it's an honour to have you with us, Dannique. I know you're a very powerful influencer and leader in your industry. Dannique, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and how you add value to companies and individuals' lives?
Wow, I do a mixture of things. So I have an office manager, people operations and HR background. So I have used these skills to really focus on the people in the company. So I spent a lot of time focusing on how we make money. So I looked at the idea of people not as resources, but just as a group or a tribe, as we say, of people who can not only create revenue in terms of money, but also create happiness in everybody else's lives. So we spend so much time at work and with our group of people. And the one thing that I always found that was missing was having this really nice, harmonious way of working with people who have different minds and ways of working. So I've spent a lot of time trying to help people to understand that everybody has a different way of working. And this is what we love about people and how to utilize that in your business.
Oh, that's incredible. And you've thrown a few things out that I want to go into. And you said the H word, happiness. Now, you don't often hear HR managers use the word happiness. They more say the words compliance or legal. I was going to ask you, what is happiness? Like obviously a work sense, what do you mean by happiness and what does it mean in terms of the workplace?
Well, for me, there's home happiness, so where everybody gets on, but work happiness to me is where people understand each other's differences. So you get to know people on a bit more of a personal level than we're used to in the work environment, and you understand how somebody works, and you complement how somebody else works with how you work to make great work. So to me, that is happiness. You might not always be happy in the sense of what we're told happiness is, but ultimately you go into work and you feel good doing this work with someone because you understand their differences. So for me, that is workplace happiness.
Wow, that's so well said. And I know we've spoken many times about this off camera. It's the whole political correctness, the forced diversity thing. You and I share, I know I'm preaching the choir here. We hear about diversity and different viewpoints all the time, but as you know, a lot of companies just say it in terms of lip service. How do you make it real? How do you make diversity really work and really work on a beyond the hollow words basis?
Well, probably a little bit controversial from my end, but forget about what the media tells you is what diversity is. We need to really go back to what our organic feelings and thoughts are on inclusion. So if you feel like you're not including someone in a conversation, regardless of what they look like, what their backgrounds are, or anything, if you just feel like you are not including someone in this conversation, then you're probably not. So let's go back to the pure thoughts of what inclusion is. Let's think about the people who might be missing from the table, the voices that are not being heard, the people in your teams who have never sat in on maybe a managerial meeting or, more of a team outing, and bring those voices in, even if you feel like, they're a junior member of the team and they don't have enough experience. Bring them in, help invest them into your idea of what your company means to you, and what you want the company to mean to them, and sit them at the table and ask for their opinions. And only that way will we start to get real diverse thought and inclusion into the rooms of our business. But some of the things that the media tell us, I think we're forced to believe that, and then we feel a sense of urgency to adhere to these unspoken rules that seem to be, that we feel like we need to conform to, which we absolutely should. I mean, we should. That should be the ultimate goal, but it should start from a pure place in your thoughts and how you connect with people.
Oh, exactly. To me, I think diversity and inclusion is awesome, but the real diversity inclusion that you said, not that fake weirdo stuff the media is always pushing on us. Not the, not the skin color based one, the actual real person deep down form of diversity and inclusion.
100%. It's all about connecting with people. And once you connect with people, not based on what they look like, what their sexuality is, whether or not they agree with you, when you just connect with people and you hear what they say, it may help to develop your thoughts. And then once you do that, it won't matter what anyone looks like or sounds like, or, because we're now just connecting with pure thoughts and true diversity.
Oh, that's incredible. And I know this, in terms of culture, right? We hear culture is banded around like candy, right? We hear the word culture this, culture that. I'd love you to actually tell us, what is culture and what does it mean? And what's the example of a good culture and a bad culture?
Okay, so in terms of work, so I'm going to stick to workplace.
Sorry, my bad. Keep it work related. Focus on work.
Yeah.
And what is culture and a good and bad example?
So in terms of workplace culture, it's how you want someone who is new to your business, so a visitor or a new member of your team, to feel about your business. So what does someone who has never walked into that room before feel when they walk in? So if I walk into a room in an office and everyone is quiet and dressed in corporate attire and likes to work with headphones on, it tells me that the culture of that company is quite individualist. People like to work in silos. That's your company culture. If I walk into a business and I am greeted with a warm welcome from everyone, regardless of what their titles are, it tells me that everybody in that company is invested in my happiness and invested in me wanting to work with them. So if you're telling someone that your business is about inclusion and diversity and happiness and employee engagement, and I don't feel that when I walk into your room, it probably means that you may have to look at what your company values are again and try to align them with what you're saying or what you're telling people on your website or at events when the rest of your team are not there.
That's very well said. I want to go back to something that's obviously quite controversial, but again, just speaking the truth here. I live in Australia, right? I live in Sydney. And you know what? I have never, ever seen any racism or sexism in the workplace. What I've personally experienced is what I call classism. So one of the biggest things that I've seen in the workplace is massive issues of classism, such as people from the rich part of town looking down on people in the poor part of town and vice versa. Have you seen it, honestly, have you seen a lot of racism and sexism in your time? Because I haven't seen it. I've seen classism, but not racism or sexism. What's your experience with those real horrible sort of issues? What have you seen?
So for me, I would say I've seen all, but I guess for me, I see it because I am part of a group or two that will be affected by that. So I think sometimes we see what affects us, and that's normal. That's absolutely normal. So I do see, for me, the biggest issue is class, especially within the UK for me, because and within that issue, we have these other issues, which is class, racism, sexism, because I think class is the bigger problem.
And I agree with you. I think classism is the biggest problem out of them all. Like, I've never, the biggest issue I've ever dealt with is classism. That's always 90% of the problem.
Yeah. And for me, I feel, and personally, I feel this because I have been affected by classism by someone of the same race as me. I've been affected by classism of someone of the same sex as me. I've been affected by classism by someone of the same sexuality as me. So for me, I feel like classism is probably the biggest issue that we have in the workplace, and our need for titles. So, you know, we go into workplaces and we have this hierarchy. So the CEO is the best person in the company, and that's probably the person who you are less likely to have outward issues with. So even if your issue is with the top of the food chain, shall we say, you will direct your issues probably more so with people who you deem at the bottom of the food chain. Which is what I experience when I walk into various workplaces or companies, because people who have issues with the workplace tend not to really have the issues with the people that they're having the outward issue with. It's probably someone higher up who they feel like they're too of a higher class to even direct their concerns with. So the issues filter down to the more junior members of the team. Which I guess is what we see play out in real life, right? As well.
Wow, that is so well said, because it's funny, I can completely relate actually. And, you know, what are some of the best ways of, you know, and I'm asking you a big question here, what are some of the top ways that companies can really reduce or eliminate classism to make things more productive and better for everyone?
I would, in my idealistic world, I would love us to remove titles. I do love the idea of a more flat hierarchy or structure in a company. I like the idea that even though we have management meetings, the idea of opening the door to more junior staff to understand how these manager meetings are conducted and why they're conducted, and what the ultimate goals are. So it doesn't feel like it's a really olden day meeting that's just where you're just part of the older boys club. Yeah. You know, we should get to a place where we're opening the doors to every member of our team, because that's how you get the investment from your team, is investing in them. And teaching them, and that is all part of the learning and development, and part of the stuff that I do with the companies that I work with, is helping people to understand that we should no longer be identifying people as their job title, but more developing people, so we all work towards the same shared goals, but maybe just in our different work styles or work patterns.
Well, I love where you're going. An example I'd love to bring up is actually LinkedIn. So I have to introduce you to him, by the way. I recently interviewed Neil Isdale. He is with LinkedIn Sydney, and he's really helped me out a lot. So he's one of my friends at LinkedIn Sydney. And I've been to LinkedIn a few times to meet with him. Yeah. And he was actually telling me exactly what you just said. And I think, obviously, I love LinkedIn, right? We all do. He was actually showing me that LinkedIn has that structure. It's open plan office. Everyone's in sort of casual, semi-business gear, and they have a minimal focus on titles as possible. So it's funny. It strikes me that LinkedIn seems the embodiment of that awesome culture that you just described.
Yeah, I think we're getting there with LinkedIn. You know, so before I met you and before I embarked on a LinkedIn journey, my idea of LinkedIn was exactly how I had felt about most the workplaces that I walked into, is that it had this hierarchy and you had to have your professional hat on all of the time, and you wasn't quite forthcoming or authentic with your truth or your ideas of how you could make the workplace better. And over the last, I'd say about 6 months, I've seen a real shift in LinkedIn, especially, where people are now feeling that they can produce more authentic and organic information about themselves, their brands, or their businesses.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Amazing how it manifests. And I'm going to say, I love where it's going. And I actually wanted to ask you a question, actually. Now, just for the sake of the wonderful, good-looking audience out there, we're doing this interview in early to mid-May, where Corona has started to reach its end. And, for example, Australia's in the process of reopening, and thank God for that. How has Corona impacted your world, and how has that impacted the clients and wonderful people you work with?
Well, as you know, my mum did, she suffered through the coronavirus quite severely. And on a personal level, that impacted my business because it took me away from my business and focusing on my family and their needs. And I felt guilty about that, which I think most people have done. I think most people have felt really guilty for not having their work hat on during this time. Now we're towards the end of, our lockdown, and I'm hoping today is the 10th of May. Our Prime Minister is supposed to be telling us how we're getting out of this today, so I'm hoping it's good news. But I'm hoping at this point we now re-enter our workplaces and our businesses, knowing that we need to be a little bit more caring of the people that we work with, the people we live with, the people we are surrounded by in our communities. And for me, I'm quite positive about it. I think we will now have a focus on what's important. We will also have a focus on how we work. So not just staying in a company just for the sake of it, because now we've been shown that at any moment that company may not exist, or that company may stop. So we now hopefully will be working in a way where we make these great connections with people, because now we are going to see some people who we formerly worked with in the workplace and we were calling the junior members of the team and not treating them quite right. Those are the people now who may have been furloughed and may have started their new businesses, and we might want to be reaching out to them for our own work needs or our own business needs. So I think we will start seeing people connecting with people of all different levels in an absolutely different way.
So ironically, I'm flying back to that earlier conversation, Corona is helping us defeat classism.
Yeah. And I hope we stay here, because for me, it seems like a really good place. I've had so much support from people I didn't think I would get support from, because I deem them as probably a bit more like social clout, shall we say, than myself. But they have reached out to me in the most amazing ways, and which has helped me to not think of everyone as like a pompous rich guy. And I think the reverse has happened too, which is, could only be a good thing.
Oh, I think so. And I love how you said pompous rich guy. And this brings me into the next thing I was going to bring up. And again, for the sake of the audience, Dannique and I have spoken about this topic a lot off camera. Talking about, you've been trolled a lot on LinkedIn, haven't you? You've had a lot of trolling. Me too, by the way. I've been trolled way more than you, by the way. But let's keep the focus on you. You have been trolled, not Edward Zia level, but you've been trolled pretty badly, right?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not asking you to dox anyone, but I was just going to say though, what kind of trolling have you received, and what's happened to you?
Well, it's quite funny because we believe that the people who we think our thoughts align with are the ones who wouldn't troll us. But I think most of my trolls have come from people who are quite closer to the left, so similar to me. People who have this they think they have this really diverse and inclusive way of thinking, but really it's quite detrimental if you kind of say that you think you are maybe closer to the left, but then you say something that may have some residue of the right in it, and I've been attacked by those sorts of people, and they are men, women, everything in between. So I don't think there is a face of the troll. I think the trolls for me have just been people who maybe read something of me saying I'm a black woman who's comfortable in my black woman's skin, and not liking that I've been able to say that openly, because for them, we should be more progressive. We shouldn't be thinking of colour. We shouldn't be thinking of race. We just have this universal way of thinking. And if you don't, it means that I've been called racist for accepting my race on LinkedIn, which is quite hilarious.
Stop. Hold on a second, right? Now, as you know, I understand the left very well. So just say it again. So you said you've been called racist for accepting your race. Did we all hear that correctly?
I hope you do. I hope everybody hears that. I have been called racist for calling myself a black woman on LinkedIn.
So you are very, if you don't mind me saying, don't let your husband beat me up. You're a very attractive black lady, and you're a racist because you've called yourself a black lady.
Yes. Yes.
And how does that logic work? It's sort of like, what's going on in these people's heads? What are they thinking?
I think we're in a place where there's so many extremes. People just don't know what extreme is. And you know, we get pushed this idea of what inclusion and diversity really is. And if it goes against what the media has told us what it is, then it means we're racist. Because, you know, how dare you point out something that the media has told you shouldn't believe in. And I think, as I said earlier, I think what we just need to do is just connect more with people to understand where their thoughts are, or why they think the way they do, and that's it. But there's just a lot of judgment, I think. And it's so bizarre that some of the people who are supposed to be the most non-judgmental people on this planet have become the cousins to their far right.
Yeah,
it's the truth.
I couldn't agree with you more. Now, so just for the sake of the audience, even though I'm quite fair-skinned, I actually come from a Persian background, right? Middle Eastern background. And for the sake of the audience, I'm quite active in Australian politics. And I was once working. So call me a white guy for argument's sake, even though I'm Middle Eastern, but I'm fairly fair. I was once working at an election booth, and I was running the team. It was myself. I was the whitest guy there. Everyone was either Indian or Chinese, and mostly female. And on the other side of the aisle, we had a bunch of blonde-haired, blue-eyed white people calling us racists. Insane. Absolutely insane. And so where does that toxic thinking come from? Because I agree with you. I think that toxic thinking has infected the workplace in a very detrimental fashion.
I think for me, it's about our understanding of acceptance. So I apply this to my life, my existence, and my work. So our understanding of acceptance is we are told that this is right, and we live that for a little while, and then we get the news that actually this isn't right. And some of us will seek or investigate to figure it out, and some of us will just fall into denial, acceptance, or denial, anger, or depression. And I think the people who are in the anger and denial is us being able to have thoughts that don't align with what we've been told is the truth. To them, it means that we are liars, because that's not what the media says. And I've read this book, and in this book, it didn't say blah, 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 blah. And this didn't happen here. Instead of just being able to sit down and say, okay, do you know what? I'm going to remove the anger, denial, and depression, and let's just go straight to the bargaining stage, which is the stage that we all need to be at in order for us to get to a place of acceptance and then just working well together. some people cannot accept that other people have different ways of thinking, even if you align yourself. So if I align myself with saying, I'm such a positive thinker and I'm a positive person, and what somebody else's idea of positivity, if what I believe is positive and what someone else believes is positive collide, or they don't complement each other, then with people who are not in that acceptance or bargaining stage will just fall into anger. And I think that's where the trolling begins, because they haven't got through to their heads that someone has a different way of thinking, which may be great for them, but not so great for me. And I'm cool with that. It may be that the way that they think triggers something in them to make them feel like, well, everything I've learned is all wrong. So I find trolling very, I find it quite therapeutic, actually, because then it makes me realise that people are still human, you know, because if we're all agreed and we're all in the acceptance and bargaining phase of everything, there would be no problem, and then I wouldn't have a job, would I? So
Exactly.
You know, sorry, I was just going to say, it just makes me feel comfortable knowing that we have trolls, because it's a very human thing to have.
Oh, I think it's well said. And I love where you're going, and I know we're all going to this point. And I think it ties back to what we said at the start of the interview, is that if we want to really, again, diversity and inclusion is just banded, it's just handed out like candy. A lot of people are using those terms that don't mean it, but I think until we accept that people think differently and that's okay, there'll never be proper inclusion.
Yeah, no, I think I think once we connect a bit more with our own self and we understand and we're a bit more self-aware, I don't think we will ever get to a place of complete diversity and inclusion, because there are a lot of people in positions who maybe dangle some other prizes to people in positions like mine. And if you are not connected with people and your ultimate goal is to make loads of money, have this amazing house, buy this car, go on family holidays, you are probably not going to help that company into diversity inclusion. Even if you're a black female, a gay man, non-binary, if your ultimate goal is money for that company, you are probably not going to help the people, because you could be sold easily. So unless we connect with people and we understand that the money that we think we could get from people who could trick us into positions of things that are not inclusive, for want of a better word, if we don't connect with people, we will always easily be sold into something that contradicts what we think we believe is diverse and inclusive.
I suppose if you want to take diversity and inclusion to the next level, regardless of the colour of your skin, I suppose the colour of money attracts everyone, doesn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I think Hannah Moser, who is amazing and a great friend of mine, and she does loads of great stuff on LinkedIn as well, she had a one post where she asked people, what is your price? And everyone was like, oh, I'm not, I can't be sold.
Yeah. You know what I said? I think I said $10. I was $10.
Yeah. I think we all have a price, you know.
$10.
And they said, yeah.
just on that,
I'm glad of Skittles.
I'm glad you actually said that. I was actually going to bring up Hannah Moser, and just for the sake of the audience, Hannah Moser is one of our wonderful friends. She's a top coach based in London. And I was actually going to bring her up, and you bet me to it. I'm going to say, Hannah Moser, please follow her, everyone. Hannah Moser is an amazing lady. She really puts some provocative, edgy stuff out there on LinkedIn, doesn't she?
She really does. She has helped me to rethink some of the things in my business too. And we connect on and offline, Hannah and I, and we have some great conversations. And my ultimate goal is to have an office full of Hannahs and me's. Yeah. That's it.
Because I think one thing that and that's one thing I've seen that you and Hannah have in common, you're both really, really good at calling out the strange contradictions in society. Seems that you and Hannah share that same ability. You're able to look at something and go, ask that question that exposes the hypocrisy.
Yeah, and that's it. And on those, I presume Hannah's probably been as trolled as much as I have, because people don't like us having those kind of conversations that kind of make them feel a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, as you're saying no, and I guess we're both people of color. If you want to get technical, I'm a Persian guy, and you're a rather sassy black woman from London. You know, the owners don't like it when we wander off the reservation, don't they? They don't like us when we walk off that mental reservation. We can't do that, can't we, Dannique?
Yeah, and sadly, not sadly, because I have clients who really think in that way, and they don't know why they don't know why things are not working in their company, and they're open to having these discussions. But I definitely have come up with there has been some resistance to it as well, and I think it's because we're all taught that this is what professional is. This is how you have the mature conversations, Dannique. We do not talk about people, we talk about business bottom line. We talk about revenue, we talk about company assets, and we call people resources instead of people. So it's,
that's creepy. Like it sounds, I think the moment you call a person an asset, that's starting to sound a little bit creepy. I don't know about you, but that kind of creeps me out, that sort of talk.
Well, it had always creeped me out. You know, I left university. Well, that's a lie. I was in university when I had my first people position. And it concerns me that at the time when I first joined, I don't want to say the company because it's quite a reputable company.
Yeah. Leave the companies out of it.
But when I joined, we didn't have a human resources team. And we were just the people team, and we looked after the people in the company. And then into my second year with the company, we had a human resources manager come in, and the entire dynamic changed, and not for the better.
Oh, I can imagine. And let me guess, the new culture that came in was all about pitting people against each other.
100%. It became very salesy, which is, I think sales is great, but I think if you are sacrificing team spirit, shall we say, or team engagement with just purely sales, it doesn't work. You need a balance, and that wasn't happening there. And I learned that young. So I was 21.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I was 21, and I realised then that we were moving into people becoming a business as opposed to people working well together.
Wow, this is incredible. And I was going to ask you as well. I mean, as we bring this interview to its epic conclusion as well, I was going to ask you, when you work with clients, what are some of the first things that you do? When someone approaches you and says, Dannique, we need help. What are some of the first things that you do?
Well, the ultimate and the first thing I tell them is, if you're looking for someone to tell you how I'm going to help you make more money, I'm not the right person for you. I'm a true people advocate. And I think if so that's the first thing. So we clear that up. And so once we get over that, I just let them do the talking. I assess their culture. I speak to everyone in their company. I let everybody have their say. And then we have a bit of a kumbaya moment where everybody feels comfortable. Well, I get them to a point where everybody feels comfortable in saying what their concerns are, where they feel like they could improve, but we do it in a very nice space. I try to do it outside because, nature is great. But I try to get everyone to a point where they feel comfortable with talking to their manager, the CEO, the chairman, like people who they historically in the business didn't feel like they could speak to or connect with, and the CEO didn't realize this. So we get them to that point, and once we're at that point, we then do the work that needs to be done in terms of identifying what everybody in the company's strengths are, and how people can accept each other working differently in their different styles, and then how to have this amazing hiring process where they get new people on board, but from a really well thought out way, as opposed to, I just need someone to fill this role so we can make loads of money.
Oh, that's deep. And I was going to ask you, Dannique, what is your advice to companies now, especially coming into the post-corona world? What are some of your top pieces of advice to companies to have the best cultures and the best performance?
Okay, 1, hire me.
Yep,
2,
goes without saying. Hire Dannique Blake. Get on the scene.
Just get it in there. No, but I think really having people focused policies and in your company and starting to put those together right now, even though people have been in a little bit wounded at the minute, people have been in a little bit sore, there's people who are being furloughed, but we are coming out of that. People are going to be reintroduced into a workplace. There will be, I've spoken to a few people who had been furloughed who were feeling like they were potentially the least important people in their company, and that's why they were furloughed. And I think when you start to reintroduce these people back into your company, you need to have these conversations where you make sure they know that you are invested in them, and this was a decision based on trying to keep them as opposed to trying to get rid of them. So really start focusing on the people in your team, really start focusing on how everybody that you work with has a strength and how you can invest in them, because I'm pretty certain that there will be a lot of people working for companies who potentially didn't treat them very well before and during this crisis, who will want to be leaving your business right now. And what I think leaders need to start doing now is having those conversations where they are quite humble, there's a lot of humility, and you make sure that everybody knows that you do care about them, and your decisions were based on making sure that the business could continue as opposed to wanting to get rid of people just for the sake of keeping some money in the business.
I think that's well said, because I suppose, let's say you kept your job, but you had a very poor experience during Corona. I suppose revenge would be a motive. Like, as time passes and as the economy goes back to stronger than what it was, you'll be thinking, right, I need to get even. I need to get out of this place. So I guess you want to prevent good people thinking that.
Yeah. You want to make sure your team knows that you care about them and that you did this because you cared. And if you didn't do it because you cared and you did it for money, maybe you need to sit down and think about why you did that as well as a leader.
Ooh, time for a big, long, hard look in the mirror and maybe have a nice, hot, warm bath and scrub yourself clean, huh?
Yeah. Renew, regenerate, make it better.
I love it. I got to say, Dannique, I love some of the ideas that you shared that are incredible. And before you go, I want to ask you a few things. What are some of your closing thoughts to all our beautiful friends across the world running this interview? What are some of your closing thoughts to help them maximize their workplaces and potential and get back on the horse in these crazy times?
Okay, well, I think if you are furloughed at this moment in time, don't feel guilty that you haven't been working. Oh, so it's furloughed. So it's people who they kind of kept their jobs, but they've been asked not to work and they're on a reduced salary at the moment. So they may
furloughed. It's called furloughed. Gotcha. Furloughed. Thank you.
Yeah. So anyone in that position at the moment, or anyone who has been made redundant, don't feel like this is your fault. Your business was, either the company culture was terrible and you are in a great position right now to go and get the job that you deserve, or your company made decisions based on trying to keep the business thriving and alive. And 100%, if it was for that reason, they will rehire you if they can. Don't get downtrodden, don't feel upset. Just focus on two things. Focus on developing yourself, so developing your professional self and your personal self, and reconnect with people. And more than happy for anyone to jump into my DMs and have a chat about that if they just need some understanding around that, or how they can develop themselves professionally, how you can make your CV look amazing for your new employer, and how you can just get some confidence back to getting back into the workplace, because that's going to be the challenge. It's everyone's still feeling quite nervous about going back to whatever our new real life is. So just maybe think about that, and think about how you can support yourself and other people into back into the world of work.
Oh, very well said. And Dannique, I'm going to say thank you for this great interview. It's been incredible. And how can people get in contact with you?
Well, I am notoriously on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn.
Oh, beautiful. You are quite the LinkedIn influencer. And I've got to say a big thank you. And just before you go, Dannique, again, without blowing any secrets that'll get you into trouble, I just want to ask you, what secret stuff do you have cooking up? Where to from here, Dannique? What do you got secretly planned?
Well, this is my secret, so I'm going to let everybody know. I would love to change the face of HR. I want people to feel comfortable with speaking to their HR managers again. So during my time of self-reflection and self-awareness, I started my level 7 qualification in human resources. So I'm hoping to get back into that field so I can help. Sometimes you have to be in it to change it, right? So I'm hoping to get back into that world and be the face of the new normal for HR.
Oh, don't worry. Myself, our team, and LinkedIn will help make that happen. And I just want to say as well, I'm glad that your awesome mother pulled through these times as well.
Thank you. She is also glad because she got fed up of my cooking.
There you go. Well, Dannique, I just want to say thank you for donating your Sunday to our show. I'm very excited to get it out. And I just want to give you the final word and say, Dannique, thank you so much. We absolutely appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all too. And I hope you have a fabulous Mother's Day as well, because I know everywhere else except the UK is celebrating.